To Wayne. What do you want to say? Good afternoon, Steve.
Oh, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I just wanted to bring up, you're talking about the threats and everything. Well, I went to a gun show a couple weeks ago, and I'm a gun owner, and I don't fault anybody that has a gun, any type of gun they want whatsoever. It's their right to have it. But in the past, the gun shows have had, limited things that don't sell. Well, this last gun show, I was amazed at how much tactical gear there was. You got tactical gear with body armor that'll stop a bullet, body armor that'll stop a rifle round. You had wound dressings, military wound packs, things like that.
Really?
Suture kits, bandages. And, the scary thing is, somebody's buying it or the vendors wouldn't be there. And, it just makes me, it's like, who's buying it? What's going to happen? And where is this leading? And It all goes back. It all goes back to the election was stolen. I mean, there was just tables and tables of, the Brandon T-shirts saying, stop the steal and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, he's still inciting the country where the country's going to have a revolution. And I mean, and you're going to end up, in my opinion, you're going to have people fighting people in this country because of what the man's doing. And I just wish that I'm a registered Republican. I've been a registered Republican since 1972. But I wish our senators in the state of Indiana would come out and say, enough is enough. This is crazy. One of them I know won't, but the other one, Todd Young, is a retired, or he went to Annapolis, and he was a Marine officer. Besides his oath of office to being a senator, he took an oath of office as an officer in the United States to support the Constitution of the United States. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Senator Young supports everything that's gone on with Trump, but I sure wish that the Republicans that believe in the Constitution would come out strongly and say, enough is enough, before we have family fighting family and friends fighting friends. It's getting bad.
Steve, I'm really glad you called and talked to us about that, because I don't think that many people know that either they have themselves not gone to the gun shows or they don't realize what's going on. And I'm so glad that you raised that. It's so scary. And thank you for calling, because, especially for somebody who is a gun owner, and I'm not knocking anyone who's a gun owner, but you're noticing the distinction. And why it's important is because you're not somebody who's going to the gun shows with a critical eye towards judging. You're going there because you want to participate. You want to be able to have the weapon that you choose, but you've noticed a shift in what's happening. And I think that is all the more telling that for people who are responsible gun owners, like it sounds like you are, for responsible gun owners to wonder and ask those very questions of why would you need all this stuff? And that's a reasonable question. Why would you need all of that stuff? What are you preparing for? It's one thing to talk about having the weapons, and people can quibble about whether it's for truly for sport and for hunting, or whether we're talking about hunting animals any longer. It's quite another to talk about, well, you can't make a legitimate case that it's for hunting or the sport of having a gun and shooting. We're talking about having the type of equipment and medical supplies and preparing what it seems like for being in battle. And when you juxtapose that or connect the dots between that and people's thoughts about a call to action and talking about the Second Amendment in this indictment, it is really, really scary. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that to me, it's not enough just to ignore it and say, and hope it goes away. I think it's incumbent upon our elected officials who are in positions of leadership to not be silent when their voice counts. Because what happens when you don't hear someone talking about an issue, when you don't hear somebody coming out against something? I'm not talking about guns. That's a different conversation than the one we're having right now. I'm talking about the idea of, if you know that people are getting this information, this misinformation, and are being told to act upon the big lie, and people are potentially being told to carry and bear arms as a result, or that they feel as though this world and this country is so divided, not just on ideologies, but the only option is going to be to come to blows, let alone gunshots. I think you ought to say something and say, look, even if it's just saying, Maybe you're a Republican official or a Democratic official. Either way, don't you think it's time to simply say, look, I don't want you to mistake my silence for complicity. I don't want you to take my silence to mean that I agree with what's being said. I think you have to stop thinking of the idea of, okay, just ignore it and it'll go away, because I think people are misinterpreting the silence. Perhaps they're interpreting it correctly, which is the idea of they don't want to speak out about the issue, and that's bad enough. But maybe they are misinterpreting the silence as condoning the behavior and encouraging it.